Everybody, welcome to the me coughing and today's Dev Hangout for February 28th, 2018. Today we're going to be talking about the Steamroller 2018 CID that started on Monday and is running till Monday. I'm Organized Play developer Will Hungerford, and with me is lead CID developer Will Pagani.
That's me.
Hey,
hello, everyone.
Lead CID developer.
What up, dog?
If somebody wanted to join in on this CID or any future CIDs, where should they go?
I would suggest going to cid.privateerpress.com, or you can write me a letter.
Like a mail letter, like a physical written letter. You're gonna need to give out your address right now.
It's the Privateer Press address. It can be found on our webpage.
Please don't send mail.
Please
don't send mail in that manner. So
yeah, cid.privateerpress.com is how you sign up. You get on in there, and then once we approve your account, you are in and ready to go. There are no requirements. You don't have to be cool or anything. Everyone's allowed. I'm not very cool. No.
So we're going to have a short little dev talk today. We're going to talk about some of the stuff we've learned so far from the CID that just started Monday, so this is only Wednesday so far, so we only had a couple days of feedback. And some things you can expect to see coming up this week, and then what you could expect to see next week. We've got some pretty exciting announcements. So let's start with the kind of overall scope of the Steamroller CID, what we've been talking about. This is a much smaller scope CID. It's only lasting for 1 week, and the reason being is that the CID cycle for Steamroller 2018 is not covering nearly as much as 2016 to 2017 did. We really redefined the tournament format with Steamroller 2017 and the way that scoring worked, the liveness of the scenarios, and things were in a good spot. We're pretty happy with 2017, and so this is very, very small tweaks. We're going to go over the scenarios in a moment, talk about the 6 of them that are available, and sort of the feedback we received and what we're thinking about the 3 new scenarios thus far. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, we have both Facebook and Twitch chat up in front of us. We will be answering questions from people watching. We'll usually call it the username, repeat their question, they give an answer. So hopefully if you're watching this later on, you can follow along with whatever we're saying.
That also means that if you have questions, put them in chat, and we will try and answer them as they come up.
Yep. This is your chance to talk to us about the Steamroller 2018 CID, or whatever. Mainly Steamroller 2018, please. Keep it on top.
Stay on target.
Don't mail us.
No. You got to mail your battle reports to Hungerford. Great.
So let's start talking about the scenarios, and we're gonna blow through these pretty quickly. There are 6 scenarios in the 2018 packet, and 3 of them remained exactly the same. That's the first 3. You've got the Pit 2 being the first scenario in the packet, and I believe Tony, our magical video wizard, is going to pull that one up in any second now.
We have a delay.
We have a delay?
We have a delay.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Go for it.
So, Pit 2, the second one, Standoff, and the third, Spread the Net. When we realized which ones we wanted to change, we looked at the core of what we wanted to keep, and the new scenarios that came out were sort of to fill the voids left behind by the ones that were changing. The reasons the ones that did changed is because they weren't quite live enough, and they weren't really creating the exact level of engagement in scenario play we wanted. Our goal is for scenario victories to always be viable, but not the only way to win. We definitely want the assassination comeback or assassination to be your main plan to occur. And Spread the Net, Standoff, and the Pit 2 really do achieve those. We have heard the concerns from some people that Spread the Net in particular can be a little too live, but the feedback on those has been really back and forth. We're keeping a close eye on it. We don't have any changes we want to make to Spread the Net at the moment. So we're just paying attention, watching the obvious tournament results that have occurred thus far, which casters are doing well on it, and we haven't seen any abuses or exploits on it. It is probably the most live scenario tied with Mirage, and we're just constantly vigilant that no caster comes out that causes a problem in it.
It is a scenario that we're definitely keeping a close eye on, as Hungerford said, right? Because you can kind of get, you can lose it very quickly and you can win it very quickly. And that's always something that we're wary of, because we don't want the game to sort of feel like the game didn't actually occur because you didn't contest zones and stuff. So we definitely want you to feel like you're still playing a game when you're playing these scenarios. And we don't want them necessarily to define your game, but we do want them to impact your game.
Yeah.
So
interaction and engagement is key, right?
Absolutely.
Brush Chewer says Spread the Net.
Interaction. Yeah.
Brush Chewer says Spread the Net is the best scenario she's played, and she really enjoys it. Van de Beest asks, what's the design intent for champions? I'll talk about champions in a moment, Van. We're going to go over the scenarios first, and we will get to your questions here in a bit.
Yeah.
Real fast, someone, Zach Gutman asked on Facebook, did you guys consider upping the scenario victory win, the win condition number from 6 to 5, up to 6 from 5? We talked about it briefly. It had been 6 for the longest time in the 2017 CID, and there was, I don't know a better way to put it, there was something missing, and when we dropped it to 5, it hit the exact level of scenario liveness we wanted. So,
Liveosity.
yeah, liveosity, effectively. When it came to 6, too many games ground down to where the scenarios stopped being relevant, and the point is for them to always be relevant, but you to always be able to engage and contest. We don't want to go back to sort of the SR 2014, 2015 days where you could just jam your opponent out feet and they couldn't do anything depending on a bad list matchup. Legionnaires asks, is the live scenario intended to reduce the viability of brick lists? Not at all. I mean, if you make a brick list that's capable of contesting the zones and forcing your opponent to come engage with you, I think it is a viable way to play.
Absolutely. And I think you'll see a lot of that on Mirage, which we're going to get to here in a little bit.
Yep.
Is a scenario that works very well with those style lists.
Okay. So let's talk about the new scenarios very briefly, and we're going to start with Invasion, which is in scenario number 4. Invasion is very, I want to say, standard in terms of scenario design. It's going to play slightly faster than the Pit 2. It is meant to be one that requires you to obviously meet in the middle line, have a good variety of models and model types in your list. And it's going to require you to sort of cast a wide net across the board. These games usually come down to when one player's flank fails and somebody can quickly score some points. Pagani and I played a game yesterday.
That's basically what happened.
And that's exactly what happened. When one of my flanks finally, we went to the end of round 7. Pagani won 7 CPs to my 6. I had 1 model left. He had 3 models. It was a great attrition game, and the game completely spun. I was up on CPs until one of my flanks completely collapsed, at which point he was able to quickly score back. We are watching the feedback on this one, and I do want to point out to everybody right now, the majority of the feedback I'm receiving is on Mirage at the moment, because people saw Mirage and they're like, this looks weird, I want to try it out. So our Invasion battle reports have actually been significantly lower in the CID cycle currently than Mirage. So if you get a chance, please go play some Invasion games. The feedback on Mirage has been solid. We would like more of it.
Yeah.
But we need some more Invasion games, please.
And one thing I want to say on that point is I've seen a lot of people sort of posting battle reports on Facebook and stuff, and that is not a great way to get our attention. Whereas I am very active on Facebook, a lot of the other developers are not and cannot be because of various reasons. So if you want to get your feedback actually in, you need to post it on the CID forums. That is the best way to get your feedback heard.
It's true.
So
yep, absolutely.
Make sure that if you are going to post stuff on Facebook or other social media sites, that's great. Interact with your community members, do all that kind of great stuff. That's fantastic. But make sure that you actually get your feedback in either through the feedback form on the CID forums or through the battle reports on the CID forums.
And if you want to go see Invasion get played, watch the game Pagani and I played, you can actually watch it on YouTube, youtube.com/privateerpressprime. It's where we put all our videos. In fact, you might be watching this video on that website right now. So,
Previous video will be that one.
yeah. It'd be cool if, like, in the YouTube video right now, a link just popped up to it and, like, was floating around, like, in my hands. That'll never happen.
It could.
All right.
Magic.
So, Invasion, it fills sort of that Outlast role that the previous one did, but it's a little bit more live than Outlast. The reason that the ones got pulled, that they got pulled, was they weren't live enough. And we were looking at increasing the amount of interacting scenario elements you could interact with, the amount of points you could score in order to make the scenario just a little bit more viable. And so Invasion sort of replaced Outlast and hopefully should score faster, but still not just, run away with it.
Yeah.
Let's see if we have any questions from our folks before we move on. 10 Minute Pie says, will the final published scenario pack include measurements to the edge of the zones for those unchanged scenarios like the new scenarios? I found that really helpful because doing basic math sucks. I will talk to the design department and we'll see what's going on. Arcnomad says that he felt Invasion felt kind of slow, but it is quicker than Outlast. Granted, you are right. I mean, Invasion is on the slower end, still viable, but it is faster than Outlast, and that's really where we wanted it to be. Outlast was just a couple notches too slow for what we wanted, and Invasion was meant to ratchet up a couple points, but not meant to be like way up here in terms of a super fast scenario.
So I also think that Invasion is one of those scenarios that can really be, not abused, that's not the right word, but taken advantage of by brick lists, right? We had a lot of scenarios that were very spread out in the previous packet,
Yeah.
and we saw brick lists kind of fall apart and not really be able to function in those, and we want that to be an option in some of these scenarios. So I feel like Invasion, once again, just to go back to our game yesterday, I played a very bricky Chromac 2 list, and I think that works very well in a scenario like that.
Yeah. Chat disappeared for a second, but somebody asked, will there be new objectives? And so the answer to that is no. The objectives are currently staying the same. Like we said, the Steamroller is looking for much smaller tweaks. We're overall very happy with what the 3 objectives do. The feedback received on the fact that there are only 3 and that you pick them after you see your opponent's army list and you know what you're playing has been very, very positive. We know that most people are usually reaching for the Pathfinder one, but the other 2 do have uses. And so at the moment, we're not looking to do anything else with the objectives, but we definitely don't want to continue to increase the complexity of them. Back in the old day, people remember when objectives used to activate, maybe even make attacks and stuff like that. Thematically, that stuff is really cool, but honestly, that kind of belongs in leagues and narrative events. And the reason being, it's just, there's a lot to keep track of, right? The game has a lot of depth and scenarios, Steamroller scenarios already add more to that. And so we're very careful how we spend our complexity points in the game. Justin Blackwood says, are you going to change which models can score each zone or flag? No, we're not. And it has come up earlier, someone's asked if structures are going to be able to score. The answer is no. They're going to be able to contest, but they're not going to be able to score.
Correct.
So let's move on to the next scenario real quick, and this one's going to be a pretty big one. This is Mirage. Mirage is number 5. This is the one that most people that saw, they immediately flocked to and have been playing. Mirage looks super weird when you first take your look at it, and it is incredibly live. I mean, the max points you could score in one turn
is 6.
To score 6 points on Mirage, your opponent isn't at the table anymore.
Yes.
They left to go report the game to the EO. They're gone. That means you have destroyed their objective. You're holding all 3 flags. You're holding your zone, and you're holding their zone.
And their zone, if they don't have a theme force, is 1 inch outside of their deployment zone.
1 inch, I mean, literally.
So if they have a theme force, it's in their deployment zone.
The feedback on Mirage thus far has been phenomenal, and the thing that I've really liked is all the battle reports we've received on the CID have, people have posted that they tried to play a quick jammy list, they tried to abuse it, and thus far I believe every response we've gotten has been green. Because in CID you were posting...
From the battle reports.
Yeah, from the battle reports. You post different colors. And green means good. The feedback we're getting on the feedback forum is pretty solid, and we've gotten a few like, I'm worried about this, this was good, I liked it, it's been, you know, a lot of good feedback. Keep trying this one out. Like I said, we need more invasion ones, but Mirage is probably at least...
It's the scariest to me, right? Like
it's the one I'm the most concerned about, but we've also tested it and found that while you look at it and you're like, this seems terrifying, it actually plays really well and gives you a lot of really fun options in the middle of the game. And obviously, a couple of battle reports, people were testing control casters, ways that they could push people away, people to try and lock things down to try and abuse the scenario. And thus far, we haven't seen any major problems. But please keep trying.
Sure. And Ian has a comment here from Facebook about the center flag and how that interacts with different terrain placements from the Steamroller document. Obviously, you cannot have a flag that is inside of an obstruction. So that is something that we will have to address should Mirage go through as it is now. We're not particularly concerned with this. That rule could change from the obstruction has to be in the exact center to within an inch of the exact center. So we have a lot of wiggle room here. I'm not too worried about this one. I don't think that's going to be a big deal.
And Argonomed says that he agrees that that Mirage is scarier in the dojo, but the flags are pretty easy to contest. That's one thing, is that it is fairly easy to contest, but keep trying it, see what you can get done there. Zugar on a Twitch chat says, are there any changes to incorporeal, and contesting? No, we're not making any changes to incorporeal at this time. There was a thread that went a little off topic in the CID that we ended up closing. We have no intention currently of changing the way incorporeal works with contesting. Instead, in your battle reports that you post, if incorporeal proved to be a massive problem that you opponent absolutely could not deal with, or was particularly abusable in a specific scenario, let us know in that battle report and we'll take all that into consideration. So the last scenario to talk about was a very small one. Recon 2 got an update. The flags got pushed in 3 inches. This was actually one you suggested.
Objectives got pushed in. Flags?
The objectives.
Continue. The objectives, yeah, okay. Yes.
No, the flags. You threw me off. The flags got pushed in.
Yeah.
Don't. It made me double question myself.
So if it's a circle or a triangle.
Triangle's a flag.
Correcting Hungerford makes him physically ill.
It makes me physically
It does. He actually throws up everywhere.
Real fast
Amazing.
before we talk about this, someone's mentioned that Central Terrain is one of the best additions to Steamroller. For anyone asking about the terrain changes or the terrain guidelines, they are also going unchanged. We've been very happy with how the new terrain guidelines that get added in 2017 worked out so far. So,
Yes.
but yeah, Recon 2, it was you that suggested we only needed a small tweak and then to push the flags in towards the center. And why don't you go over a little bit like why you suggested that and why you thought it was a good idea?
Well, I think pushing the flags a little more central lets things be more active in the game as they are controlling those flags and that kind of stuff. It also makes them slightly easier to contest because you can be more centrally located and contest those flags. It also lets you play a little closer to your own objectives, so you can get a little more value out of it.
Yep.
Are kind of the things that I liked about moving the flags over there.
Yeah, and getting the value out of the objective was the one thing I found really interesting when you said that. So, don't expect to see any updates in this CID cycle, at least today or tomorrow, to the actual scenario layouts. We need more feedback on the scenarios as they stand, and we've been pretty happy with the feedback so far. However, moving away from the scenarios, something that you are going to see an update on probably today or tomorrow is going to be the ADR
Yes.
in Champions. We've had 4 different dev talks at this moment regarding the changes to ADR. So what we've done, if you haven't checked it out yet, is we gave a preview to everyone of what the new active duty roster is, changes to Champions format, and then some major discussions on Masters and how ADR will or won't interact with that. The ADR has changed to be casters and theme forces now. For those of you who don't know, active duty roster, previously, if your army lists were all casters from the ADR, you were playing Masters, you got the specialist bonus, and if you were playing Champions, you could only play casters on the ADR. What we're looking to do with basically the 3 formats of Steamroller, Masters, and Champions is Steamroller remains the big toolbox. You know, it's one list required and has all these different variations and sort of modules you can change. You could play with time turns again. You could play 50 points. You can add all kinds of variation to it, and that's great. Steamroller is for the local store, the game club, whatever works for your meta. Masters is effectively a Steamroller that we've set and say it will always be these rules. It will always be 75 points. It will always be either 2 lists or 3 lists. And the reason is Masters becomes sort of our unlimited premier competitive format, so that you go to a con where there's a Masters, you know exactly what you're going to get. Similarly, Champions is the same way. You know exactly what you're going to go get. But it's a limited format, and it's one of the big things we're trying to push right now, is to create a limited meta and an unlimited meta. Brush Tour asked, why did we drop the painting restriction from Champions? I'll cover that in a second.
Sure. I like the idea of Champions having a different pool of things that are being played, and then that can really give a lot of variety to players. Because a Masters metagame can look very similar as things are going through and as years go on. You're always going to see kind of the same things popping up. Whereas with Champions, we can put different things into that. Players can play, like if you really love something that's not super great in a Masters format because it has a counter that is predominantly played, you can play that in Champions if it's on the list. So it really opens up the variety of lists that are available to players and the viability of a lot of different models. It really changes inside of a limited format like this because you don't necessarily have to deal with things that are in a Masters style or even a Steamroller style event.
Yep. And Champions provides 2 things, both for the veteran players. You get to do basically everything Pagani said. If you're a veteran player, it provides a new meta for you to do some new list building exercises, some new mental exercises, solve new puzzles. And with the ADR always rotating, it'll change, right? Right now, the ADR rotation is at 6 months. We have a dev talk about how often you feel it should rotate. If you want to go participate in that, it just closed, though we may reopen it. We got a lot of good feedback out of that one. But if a new player is taking the step up from their local Steamroller and going to the competitive level, they've got 2 really good choices now. You can go into Masters, which is everything that's ever come out for War Machine and Hordes, which is a lot. And you know, you're going to have a lot of things to consider and a lot of matchups to consider. Or if you want to go step into a limited pool to begin your journey into the competitive convention meta, knowing that you're going to be facing veterans there who know how these matchups are going to work, but you want, I guess, less to have to consider. You can go step into Champions, and that's sort of what it provides. So, kind of got a little off track. What ADR is now is it's casters and it's theme forces, and so Champions is going to remain You can only use these casters for your faction, and you can only play in these theme forces. And as it stands, we had a long conversation of what everyone felt ADR should do to Masters. And the overwhelming voice was that take ADR and Vanguard out of Masters. Let it be champions only so that we can balance that limited pool strictly against champions and not have to worry about Masters. There was a consideration for a while to having 2 different ADRs, one specifically for Masters with its unlimited considerations and one specifically for champions. But honestly, that begins to get confusing to everyone. So nothing is set in stone right now, but I would say that we are very strongly considering removing ADR and the Vanguard from Masters. And if that does occur when the new OP formats drop after lock and load, don't be surprised. The other thing we've been talking about, well, first let me get to Sarah's question. The other change that occurred in Masters and Champions is the DNC is gone. You don't have to play your lists, all your lists once. You can just stick with the same list the whole time you want. Sarah asked, why did we drop the painting requirements from Champions? The answer is feedback. The answer is the community reaching out to us. We have heard a lot of people say they want to play competitively, but that with the rotations, they couldn't keep up painting all the models for the different armies they needed to do. We still obviously want to promote painting. Painting is very important to us. We're a miniature company. We like painted miniatures and we think they look better. That said, we also want to be as inclusive and inviting to people as we possibly can. So to try and get more people incentivized and looking at the Champions format where previously they just disregarded it because they wouldn't paint their models at all, we removed the requirement. That said, we did keep the Best Painted Army award only in Champions. So there's still a chance for you painters out there to win a special award in the competitive arena.
Absolutely. And I mean, I love painted models. I'm still going to be showing up to all my events with painted models. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
So keep at it.
Absolutely. Let's look. Kern on Facebook says, can you play with no theme or must use the theme? If you're playing in Champions, you must use the theme.
Correct.
Champions restriction now is theme and caster. Obviously, if the ADR does not apply to Masters, you can do whatever you want to in Masters. And that's kind of the idea, is for Masters to be do whatever you want. Take the whole range of War Machine and Hordes that has existed since day one and use it. And Champions is take this and do the best you can. Now, I should say that the ADR choices that are on there are not by any means arbitrary, nor is the old formula of uncommon tournament pairings being used to create the ADR. Pagani, myself, the dev team, we sat down and we very carefully built the ADR this time. We have been listening to the feedback, and if you want to provide feedback about your feelings on your faction's matchups against the other matchups in the ADR, let us know, because the idea was to create a limited meta that should be able to play against each other very well, and everyone should be able to have a viable answer to all the other lists that could exist.
Yeah, and the hope there is to get every faction an option, right? So if you feel that if you play, and I'm just going to name random stuff because I'm not going to think about this right now, but if you play Mercenaries and you can't deal with whatever Trolls is bringing, let us know that, and we can reassess our current assessment of what we think your lists can currently do and what they can deal with. And if you provide clear feedback as to why you think this, we could certainly change either the theme forces available or the casters available to help mitigate that issue. And we're not looking for, like, man, I have the stuff to crush everyone. Like, that's not our goal here. Our goal here is to create a different metagame where you can play a wide variety of things and not feel like you're just going to automatically lose any games because you don't have an answer to something.
Yep. So we've got a couple questions I want to hit up real fast that are coming by. Zach Gutman on Facebook says, what about a themeless format? If you don't want to play with a theme, play in Masters, but we have no intention of creating a you can't play themes format, not an official one. So I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Themes are an important part of the game, and they're how we see the game going forward. So we will not be creating a format that removes them.
Van de Beest on Twitch says, are you intending to rotate themes and ADR at the same rate you rotate casters? Right now the current plan is we're trying to determine how fast we're going to rotate. It's 6 months. It may remain 6 months. We're not going to do a full rotation every time it rotates. We will probably do roughly half of how much a faction rotates. We're looking at the feedback in that dev talk right now. If we stick with the original plan, it would probably be one theme and about half the casters that would rotate, and the rest would stay the same.
Now, please remember that this is all ballpark stuff, right? Like, when rotation happens, if one faction, like let's say Protectorate, just swaps one caster out instead of 2 or 3, That can happen. We're not going to put down any hard and fast rule about how the rotation is going to go and how many things are going to rotate. But our goal is going to be half or less.
Risson asks, how do you feel about limiting ADR for the limited factions to 3 casters? The limited factions currently are at 3 casters, 1 theme force, whereas the larger factions are at 4 casters, 2 theme forces. We actually have a dev talk going on right now, and we're considering changing that. The current dev talk is to take the limited factions and make them 3 casters, 2 theme forces, which for Convergence and Grimkin means they get access to all their theme forces. But changing champions, and came from a lot of your suggestions, a lot of ideas everyone had. So there's a dev talk live right now if you want to go participate. The idea is that champions is a 2-list format, 2nd list optional. So you only have to bring 1 list if you want to, but you can bring 2. Still no DNC, so you only have to play
you can play 1 list.
And the current consideration, again from all your suggestions, is if you brought a 2nd list, it had to be a different theme force. You couldn't play the same theme force in both your lists. So that is not set in stone by any means. That is not definitely happening.
That's an idea that is being entertained at the moment.
We find it compelling. It's an interesting idea, and we're considering what that would do to the format of Champions with the current ADR and what that would look like. So if you find that interesting, if you have any strong feelings about that, go to cid.privateerpress.com and look at it. Wordborn on Twitch just asked, where can I find the ADR you're talking about? cid.privateerpress.com. Go to the dev chat forums, which is where all the ADR and the Champions conversations are happening.
We have a question from Patrick Mueller. Do you have any tips to get new casual players involved in Champions whose limited model collection do not match the current themes allowed? Yes. If Champions is something that you're interested in, start working towards it. It's likely that these rotations are going to happen much slower than the current ADR rotations, so that will give you plenty of time to get the models, become familiar with them, and go from there. Also, because of the changes that Hungerford just mentioned, it very well could be a 1-list format for you. So you can bring the 1 list that you do have, so you don't necessarily have to have 2 lists and in 2 different theme forces, and you could just play that one. So that would be the suggestion that I would go for.
Yep. Let's see if we have any other questions to cover real fast. We got that one. Somebody asked where we can find the ADR. We talked about that.
Arcano Matt asks, how do you feel about list chicken in the ADR format? Having limited answers can often force you into situations where your opponent has, say, Jacklist and Iris 2, and you need to bring a breaker and for a Jacklist but lose to Iris 2, etc. I mean, building balanced lists is something that I am always for, and I think in general those lists do very well in tournaments. So I always try and build for that kind of stuff myself. If someone is queuing super hard in ADR and you feel like you can get into a lot of those situations, I would bring that up in the CID forums, and we'll see what we can do about lessening that blow. Yep.
Van de Bee says, how much lead time are you going to give for the ADR rotations going forward? It's actually something we're talking about right now, and a consideration is to have all ADR rotations CID'd. They would only last for probably a week. Everyone could see when they were coming. I'd expect it to probably be 3 months prior to rotation, so everyone would get an idea of what was coming, give their quick thoughts on if there was any matchups they saw they absolutely felt they had no answers to, or anything that was particularly egregious within the limited pool. Take that feedback, make our change, and then post a preview probably 2 months before rotation so everyone could start getting ready.
Sure. We do have a couple of people asking in chat what ADR is. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. ADR is the active duty roster. What that means is it's a set of limited casters and limited theme forces that you can play in a Champions event.
So, and Patrick Mueller asked, how about 4 casters, 3 themes for the main faction? Go to the CID forums and give us that feedback, and give us a feedback why you think that you should do that. And one of the core points of this dev talk is if you have strong feelings about Champions as a limited format, Masters as an unlimited format, ADR in only Champions, and how it will shape and build that format, please go to cid.privateerpress.com, go to the dev talk, get involved in that, and then also play some Steamroller scenarios and go to the battle reports and let us know what you think. So for everyone watching, expect to see a new dev talk start either today or tomorrow. That is going to be an updated ADR, and then sort of what we are thinking about doing in terms of how many lists you're required to play in Champions, and where we are landing on if the themes have to all be different across your lists. Like we're going to have a pretty long conversation about all that. Do we see if we have any other questions that we want to answer?
Ethan asks, are there concerns about possible CID overload? Now with adding quick Steamroller focused CID sessions and around the full-size CIDs, we can only get so many test battles in per week. Yes, there are concerns with this kind of thing, but you as a player can decide which CIDs you wish to participate in and how much you want to participate. To quote Fight Club, you choose your own level of involvement.
Yeah. Yeah. And
don't burn anything down, though, please.
I've said this before, like on Primecast and things like that. Don't try and do every CID cycle, like, because then you're never even just playing current War Machine. You're always playing future War Machine, and you never know where you exist, and you're like in a different universe.
That's how you get into our brains.
That's how you get into our brains, where we're playing games on live stream, and you think you can, like, I do a Mark II throw instead of the Mark III throw because, like, I've got 8 versions of everything in my head.
Yeah.
It's cool to take a break. Feel free to do it whenever you need to.
Play some regular War Machine.
Play some regular War Machine.
That's the game we all love.
Play sweet models and roll sweet dice and kill your opponent.
Not literally.
Not literally.
Figuratively.
Aiden asks on Facebook, when's the Circle CID? Well, let's
Later.
talk about what the next CID is and when it's going to start. Speaking of rapid fire CIDs.
Boom, 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 boom. So this one's going to end on Monday, next Monday. So in
Steamroller ends this Monday.
a couple days.
Yep.
And then the next one is going to start next Wednesday, which will be the Crucible Guard on March 7th.
Woo woo!
So here we go.
Whole faction CID.
Let's party. Whole faction CID. I think it's a little bigger than Grimkin was.
Yeah.
So it's like 26 models, 28 models, something like that. It's kind of hard because we organize things weird, but that's not the point. So that's happening next week, starting on the 7th, which means we will be talking about it at Adepticon.
Yep.
So if you are at Adepticon, you can always come and talk to us about these things that are happening.
We'll be doing a dev chat next 1 week from today. It'll be you, I, and Oz. We'll be here doing the introduction to Crucible Guard and all the cool stuff.
And we will go over the entire faction. All of it.
Just how many of you are going to Adepticon?
All of us.
Yeah, it's like all
The
of
entirety of Dev is going.
Every one of us. Real fast, there's a question in Twitch chat. Runewise says, does ADR have representation in the fluff? Is it frontline fighting or just a Steamroller abstraction?
Steamroller Extraction.
It's a Steamroller abstraction. It's a cool name. It does not have any representation in the fluff because otherwise it would always be the most current iteration of the casters, and there could never be a Gorshade 1 through 3.
Someone just hit us with the Rocket Min meow 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 meow.
Oh, that would be Jeff.
It might have been Jeff.
That might be Jeff Olson.
You gonna sing it for him?
What? Rocket Man. Meow, 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 meow. Rocket Man.
Our playtests get weird.
Yes. Oh, super weird. So next week, join us for the Crucible Guard. But right now, to sort of start wrapping this up for everyone, there's a lot of topics we covered, these new scenarios. We just kind of gave a brief overview of what things are going on with the ADR, and it's a pretty important topic. You have a chance to give your feedback on the shape of Champions becoming a more and more limited format and really starting to create, again, Masters Unlimited, Champions Limited, and we want that for the game, and we're trying to get everyone's feedback to shape that into the best possible versions it can be. And next year we'll make more alterations as we need to, and we're going to keep sort of pushing that forward and forward and forward, so that the player that likes the entire bucket and the players that want just a little scoop out of the bucket, they have their two different options of how much of the game they want to have to interact and plan around. So cid.privateerpress.com, that's where you can go get involved in the dev chats right now. You'll see some new ones coming. It's going on until this Monday. So please come, join us, and participate.
Excellent. We're going to get out of here, guys. So thank you all for tuning in and watching. Make sure to share, like, subscribe, retweet, follow. Anything else?
I mean,
No, that seems like about it. And please let us know. And please let us know what else you would like to see us talk about, play, or discuss. We have this stream, of course, is on Wednesdays at 10 a.m.
Dev Talks every Wednesday.
Dev Hangout, not Dev Talks. Those are different.
Is it Dev Hangout?
This is Dev Hangout.
Tony, what's the name of this?
Dev Hangout.
It's Dev Hangout?
Hangout. This is the Dev
I was
Hangout.
wrong, and now I feel sick.
Don't you throw up on.
I'll do what I want.
We talked about this. So Dev Hangouts every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We have Get Your Paint On with the beautiful Dallas Kemp at 10 a.m. on Thursdays.
Yep.
And then we have the weekly Rumble on Tuesdays at also 10 a.m.
Which we did our first ever War Machine of Hordes game between you and I, and there's going to be another one next week.
Man, I cannot believe I rolled 3 Snake Eyes in one activation.
Don't talk about you.
And still won the game.
And still won the game. So,
I also rolled a 3.
Come watch us. Come watch us. Twitch.tv/PrivateerPress, YouTube/PrivateerPress Prime, and on our Facebook. And please,
Which is Privateer Press.
please go get involved in the CID if it has any interest to you, even if it's just to pop in and give us your feedback.
And yeah, we've got Lock and Load coming up as well. We've got Adepticon coming up. I'll be a Gamma for all you retailers out there.
Whoop, whoop.
We've got Las Vegas Open coming. Come hang out with us. We love chit-chatting with people.
Yep. So we're going to get out of here now. We'll see you all later. Goodbye.
We don't have anything weird planned for today.
We didn't have anything weird planned for today.
We hugged it out yesterday.
We hugged it out. We've beamed out. So let's just be normal. Let's just.
Normal is weird. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you all for coming and hanging out. It's lovely. I appreciate all of you.